I'm Jim from Come Play With Us. In this video, I'm going to be reviewing Sanctum, a game from CGE. This is an older game. It came out in 2019, I believe. Originally played 2 to 4 players. Since the original release, the designer has come out with a solo, variant for the game. You don't need to buy any other components. You just download the rules and you can play with the components in the box. So I would say now it's a 1 to 4 player game. And as usual, I will not be doing a full overview of the game in this review. If you want to see how the game plays, I've done a playthrough on my channel. I'll link down in the show notes below. So let's start by talking about the components. So the components for this are really good. I usually like the CGE components. So if you've owned any CGE games in the past, some of the components here will be familiar to you. They always have these nice acrylic tokens, and they got 2 kinds here. They've got the I think these are fatigue and stamina tokens, and then they've got these gems. They are really nice. They make the game pop, colorful, functional, and everything. So I really like those. You do get 4 minis, and the minis are decent. They're color coded, so they are easy to recognize on the board. Yeah, they look pretty nice. So. Nice minis for that, and the art in the game is fantastic. Like the art on the player boards, the art on the boards, the card art is really nice. There's item depictions and monsters, and it's all really really nice art, and the iconography is easy to read, and nothing really. There's no really issues with any of that and how it lays out. The one complaint I probably would have about the components is I don't like wooden dice. I don't know, they don't roll very nice, I guess. I find wooden dice too light, and I don't like the way they roll. So whatever, that's fine. I might, if this was one of my favorite games, I would probably replace these. Like if I was playing this a lot, replace these with, different dice that, work better. But they're fine. The wooden dice are fine, but I'm not a big fan of wooden dice. So that's probably my biggest complaint about the components. The rulebook is well laid out. I have an original copy of this game, so my rules were misprinted slightly. They're kind of off center, and but I'm sure they've fixed that since 2019. So probably don't need to comment on that. That's just I've got an old rulebook here, but. The rules are laid out pretty well, easy to understand. There isn't a lot of rules in the game. I never had any problems with the rules. Quick to set up. Everything's in here, so no problems there. You do get a really nice player aid for each player, and they are unique because each character in the game has unique player powers and stuff, and they're all laid out on the player aid. So that's pretty good. It gives you the full action breakdown and for each round. How to get the achievements, and explanation on all the special player powers. So yeah, as far as components go, I think they get a grade A on all the components. Like I said, the only thing, maybe the dice. I'm not a big fan of those wooden dice, but otherwise I think it's top notch, especially for the price point of the game. You're getting really good value for your money. Okay, so mechanics wise, this game is fairly simple. This has kind of like a Diablo type theme to it, where you're going up this track. Depending on the player count, you'll go through 1, 2, I think 5 boards. As you progress up here towards the cathedral, and as you're going up that track, you're going to be drafting these cards, which are the monsters, and then you'll be fighting them with your dice. It's a dice placement game. You're trying to get the values on the cards, and then mitigating that with your player powers and your equipment as you equip yourself up. And then once you defeat the monsters, they level you up by moving these gems. So you got a little puzzle game on the side here, where you can decide what order to move your gems up to unlock your abilities, and also unlock the gems, because you need the gems to equip the items, because once you defeat the monster, the back side of them is an item, and you need the gems to equip the items on your character. So that's all really cool how that all goes together. So mechanically it's really smooth, it's very thematic. Really neat little puzzle, and it's fairly you're doing dice rolling, but it's dice kind of placement. Um, so it's not really fighting, but it's a neat little kind of combination drafting, dice placement, and kind of level up and player power thing going on here with this little, and it's fairly puzzly doing that. There's not a ton of interaction in this game. You're going to be kind of racing up the board with the other players, and fighting over which sets of monsters to drop. The monsters will give you an indication of what equipment is on the back of them, so you can kind of decide which ones you want to go for. You're looking at a couple things like the colors of the monsters, right, to move because that will determine which gems, like which track or what color gems you can move up, and white is kind of like a wild. And and then you're just determining which items you're going for, depending on what you've already equipped and what you're looking at. And then there's different levels of monsters, 3 levels of monsters, so the monsters get tougher, but they drop better equipment and that kind of thing. That's all the first phase of the game. So the first half of the game, that's all you're going to be doing is kind of like drafting the stuff, equipping yourself, leveling up. But that's all in preparation for the big boss fight at the end, and then it's still a dice placement game, but then you basically just have to last to the end of the fight, and you either survive or you die. Whoever basically wins to the end of the boss fight, you kind of compare who has the most health left, and whoever has the most health left wins. So kind of a neat little idea. Like it is Diablo themed, but very abstract. But it does give you that feel of like collecting your loot and gearing up. That part of Diablo, and a bit of of course, the boss fight at the end is fairly epic. I do like how that works. So that's basically it for the mechanics of the game. So let's talk about things I don't like first of all. I think there could be a little bit more player interaction in this game. There's not a ton, like I said. It's a bit of a race game, so you're kind of it's a combination of trying to draft the cards you want ahead of the other players. So there's a bit of thinking there, because when you can either move and then draft or fight, but you could keep moving up and draft a whole bunch of monsters and risk taking some damage, but then you kind of get first picks of the monsters. So there's a bit of that kind of race element. Also, if you get up the track faster, there's penalties for players who kind of linger behind once you get to the end before the boss fight. That they might have to face extra damage before they get to the boss fight. So that's kind of the player interaction in this game. Kind of drafting the cards ahead of other players. There's achievements you're trying to get to before the other players, and there's also that race to the end to try to get there first, so you don't have to face as much damage before the big boss fight starts. That's all the player interaction, and it's fairly decent. It's I would say it's a race game for the most part. That part of it is just kind of that's the interaction, is just racing, and then you're just trying to see who kind of did the best build and can outlast in the boss fight, because you're each kind of individually doing a boss fight. It's not like you're fighting the same monster together. You each get this track that you've got to go up and kind of last. So once you get to that boss fight, it's basically multiplayer solitaire. But before that, it's a race. So I would say that player interaction is not super high in this game. And I tend to prefer some player interaction in my game, although I don't mind a multiplayer solitaire. So this is kind of somewhat of a relaxing. There's some tension in here, because fighting the monsters and the boss fight, but there's not much tension between players so much, except for maybe going for those achievements. The other thing is probably the variety in the decks and the items. This is one of those games where I really was hoping for an expansion of eventually, because it seemed like this is a game where I would say it's a good, solid game, but it has that feeling that this could be a great game if they just added that one expansion that added that. I don't know what to add. More variety. I think in maybe another character to play with and try out. And a bit more variety in the monsters and the items, and maybe add one more element to the game. I don't know what, but it seems like I always had the feeling of this game is a really good game, but it just missed the mark of being a great game. Okay, so what do I like about this game? I love this puzzle here in front, figuring out how to level up your character, which items to grab, how do I want to equip my character. I like I like dice placement games. I really like things like One Deck Dungeon. I enjoy that one quite a bit. This one's not quite as puzzly in the dice placement part as a One Deck Dungeon, but it's decently it gives a decent amount of decisions. All your mitigation is going to be in your player powers and the equipment you're equipping on how to mitigate the dice, and if you can't defeat the monsters, you can block with your armor and stuff like that. So I do like the dice puzzle in this. I do like this little gem level up puzzle. So you've got multiple puzzles going on here. I love drafting games, so the drafting element is fun. And I just like the boss fight at the end. I find really interesting and fun, mixed with that the dice mitigation and stuff. There's a lot of kind of like risk versus reward kind of decisions in this game. Push your luck. There's a little push your luck at the end there. How far you want to go. Because you're going up a track in the boss fight, and every card you reveal will add more damage. So if you can't defeat that card, you're taking more damage. So there's a bit of push your luck in there too. Like how far do I want to push on this turn? The more turns it takes me to defeat the boss monster, the more damage I'm going to take. But at the same time, if I can't beat that next card that I'm going to flip over, that I don't know what's going to be there, I could take even more damage. So yeah, really, really nice tension that way. This game seems to have a lot of really mechanisms I really love, like the dice placement, drafting, a little bit of push your luck. I love puzzle games, so yeah, this game just kind of has it all. But yeah, and for some reason, I think this game should have, been higher up on people's lists. You don't see it on anybody's like top 100 lists or anything like that. And I find that really strange because this is a really solid game. It's a really interesting game. I always had a good time when I pulled this out. I've tried the solo mode now, and I did the playthrough of using the solo mode on my channel, and I really like the way they implemented the solo mode. They didn't implement like a robot. It's just kind of slows you down. It's basically the same game, except you're not playing against other people. You're just trying to beat the boss monster at the end, and it has a scaling difficulty so you can make it harder or easier, depending on what your tastes are, your skill level in the game. And it gives you the same feeling of the game. You're not it takes the race element out because you're not racing against another player, but there's some good decisions there. Because the longer you take to get to the end, the more damage you're gonna, more kind of like damage cards you're gonna face at the end. So I really like the way the solo variant works. And adds more replayability to the game because it's a fun. Will pull this out and play it solo now. That it has that. I found it a lot of fun, and it's an easy game to pull out and just quickly do. It doesn't take too long. It takes about 45 minutes to an hour to get through a solo run, and even the multiplayer game's about the same. It's not a super long game. So yeah, I mean, I find this is one I've always kind of been puzzled at, like why. Just one of those games that people forgot about. Didn't make a big splash, I guess, and people forgot about it. But it's still available. I checked; it's still available retail. Really solid game if you like the Diablo theme, but you want like a Euro Diablo theme, not like a tactical fighting game. Just mostly just the collect items and gear yourself up type of thing. Then check this one out. Overall score, I give this one a 7.5. It's a really solid game. Just misses, I feel like if this got a bit more popular and they could justify an expansion would make this a great game. So maybe it's like I said, it's still for sale. So maybe at some point this will pick up some steam again, and we can get that expansion. And they can make it push it just over that bump of where it's at. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.